The air stank of wine and sweat and fear. He glanced around as the servants urged him forward. The court musicians stood like statues, their instruments silent in their limp hands. He could tell by the guests' bleary eyes and sprawling postures that many of them were drunk, yet their expressions were unusually somber. Everyone seemed shaken, as if the earth had quaked, halting the revelry in mid-stride. Daniel saw them watching as he walked forward between the tables, approaching the royal dais where King Belshazzar and the Queen Mother awaited him. Gold and silver serving dishes glittered in the torchlight on the head table, and when Daniel recognized the designs on some of them, he nearly lost his balance. These treasures had come from the temple, God's holy temple in Jerusalem. Like the Jewish people themselves, these sacred vessels had been torn from their rightful places to be demeaned and abused by pagan people who worshipped idols. The blasphemy of their use at the king's orgy shocked him. "How long, O Lord, will you forget me forever? How long will my enemy triumph over me?" Royal magi and enchanters in dark robes hovered around the king like a flock of crows, watching Daniel approach. Again, he remembered the night that King Nebuchadnezzar had called for all of his wise men, and wondered if he was Belshazzar's last resort. Typically, these Babylonian rulers sought Daniel's advice only in a crisis. Otherwise, they preferred that he stay far away and not remind them of the sovereign God of Israel and his laws. Daniel halted in front of the king, but didn't bow down. Belshazzar appeared ill, his face a sickly gray. His voice quavered when he spoke. Are you Daniel, one of the exiles my forefathers brought from Judah?" "I am." "I'm told that the spirit of the gods is in you." He glanced at the Queen Mother as if for confirmation. "They say that you have insight, intelligence, and outstanding wisdom." Daniel didn't reply. Flattery from a man who displayed no common sense or self-control, much less reverence for God, meant nothing to him. "I want you to look at this." The king pointed to the wall behind him. Daniel took another step closer and saw markings on it, as if streaks of light shone down on the wall from a source high above. But there was no window, no source of light. Daniel stepped onto the dais and skirted around the king's banquet table as he tried to discern what the markings were. They appeared to be letters and words, writing of some sort. "I summoned my wise men and enchanters," Belshazzar said, gesturing to the men. "I asked them to read this writing and tell me what it meant. But they couldn't do it." Daniel silently prayed for wisdom as he examined the wall up close, running his fingers over the rough plaster. "Where did these markings come from, Your Majesty? Who wrote them?" When the king didn't reply, Daniel turned around to ask him again, and saw terror in Belshazzar's eyes. He couldn't seem to speak. One of the men seated beside him said, "The fingers of a human hand appeared and wrote on the plaster of the wall." Belshazzar nodded, swallowing, and finally found his voice. It's true. I sat right here and watched as a hand, out of nowhere, wrote the words that you see." Had it been a hallucination, the result of too much wine? A lifetime of strong drink led men to delirium. Daniel had heard of men who preferred death to the horrid beasts of their drunken imaginations. But everyone in the banquet hall stared at the writing, too. It couldn't be a mass hallucination. Besides, Daniel saw the writing as well. He turned to study the wall, reading the words out loud. "Mina, Mina,